Hey there everyone, and welcome to another original iceberg. I'm glad to have you here for today's nostalgia dive. We're going to be talking about Flipnote Studio. That's right, Nintendo's forgotten app that captured the hearts of many DSi owners way back in the day. This app was a huge part of the childhoods of many, and though it's essentially been abandoned by Nintendo recently, it's still a very important topic in DS history. I'm very excited to bring you some interesting info about it today, and also some information that will maybe show you that the Flipnote community isn't as dead today as you might think. With that all said and done, let's get straight into the first tier of my Flipnote Studio iceberg. Flipnote Frog. To begin this iceberg, let's take a moment and talk about the amazing amphibian himself, the Flipnote Frog. The Flipnote Frog is the mascot of Flipnote Studio and Flipnote Hatena, helping out both casual users and seasoned creators. You could also find him animated in Flipnotes pretty often, and he was known for his iconic ribbiting and spinning during loading screens. Many people who had a DSi recognize this little fella, and he's the perfect representation of this Nintendo app.
Who let the frog out?
Flipnote Hatena. Flipnote Hatena was the online service paired with the Flipnote Studio app where users could upload, download, watch, and rate Flipnotes. Interestingly, Hatena itself is a completely separate company from Nintendo. Hatena is a Japanese internet service company which was founded in Kyoto in July 2001 by a man named Junya Kondo. They have different programs and services like their blog hosting service Hatena Diary and their popular social bookmarking service Hatena Bookmark. Nintendo chose to have Hatena work on the app because, according to Yoshiaki Koizumi, they didn't have the skill to manage a user-generated content site, so Hatena was chosen as a partner. On top of the Flipnote Hatena reachable from within the Flipnote Studio, there was also a Flipnote Hatena website which had some more advanced features than the DSi version. As amazing as it was, unfortunately, Flipnote Hatena was shut down on May 31st, 2013. Overall, Hatena did a fantastic job with helping Nintendo, and this wouldn't exactly be the end of the partnership, as we'll talk about soon. Starter Flipnotes. When you installed the Flipnote Studio app, you would find a few starter Flipnotes already loaded onto the device. The first two were pretty funny. The third one showed off some techniques you could use while making Flipnotes, and the most iconic of the four is definitely the Kickman Flipnote, which has been remade countless times. Personally, these Flipnotes bring some of the most nostalgia out of all of the ones that I watch. Like many, I made terrible edits of these or voiced them over, but regardless, I think so many of us have had the universal experience of starting Flipnote Studio for the first time and just watching these. Flipnote Studio 3D. As you might have known, or just guessed, Flipnote Studio 3D was the expected successor to Flipnote Studio on the DSi, this time appearing on the 3DS with more features. But it didn't exactly work out the way it was expected to. The first big issue for many regarding Flipnote Studio involved the way the online services worked. There were two big online services, those being Flipnote Gallery Friends and Flipnote Gallery World, which we'll discuss in more detail later on in the iceberg, but essentially Flipnote Gallery World was the successor to Flipnote Hatena. But with an exception to trial periods, the online service wasn't free, which inherently limited the app, creating a huge barrier that the original Flipnote Hatena never had. Next, it was released in 2013 in Japan, but due to high demand, it was delayed in North America and Europe. Those territories wouldn't see the app for a whole 2 more years. Flipnote Gallery Friends was shut down before it even reached the West, and eventually Flipnote Gallery World shut down in 2018, leaving a much smaller legacy behind than its predecessor did. Flipnote Studio never ended. Pseudo-Mimo. So there's a reason that I put this entry so high up on the iceberg, and it's mainly because I really want people to hear about this one. If you weren't aware, the original Flipnote Studio Hatena is alive and well, due to a community website called Pseudo-Mimo. Pseudo-Mimo is a free community version of Flipnote Hatena created by a man named Austin Burke, which people have been using for years to continue making Flipnotes, and I don't think it gets the attention that it deserves. This website literally takes what was good about Flipnote Hatena and makes it even more accessible. You can watch Flipnotes on your phone or laptop, but also you can change some network settings in your DSi to access the website from the Flipnote Studio app. Looking at the Pseudo-Mimo community really feels like they took what people were doing on this app back in 2009 and just pulled it into the modern day, and I highly recommend you check it out if you can. I'll be linking a guide to get started with Pseudo-Mimo on your DSi if you're interested, but you could also just go to pseudomimo.net. Archives. This entry is another one that I put higher up on the list because I really want as many people to see it as possible. So buckle your seatbelts, Flipnote fans, because I'm going to reveal to you that almost all of the hit Flipnotes from Flipnote Hatena are available online. No, the cruddy animations that you put on a DSi that somehow managed to get into the washing machine or were sold at a garage sale 10 years ago probably aren't there, but many of the ones that hit the front page way back in the day are available. There are loads of collections and individual uploads on the Internet Archive as well as YouTube, but also Sudomimo has a very large archive project in the works. While it's currently unfinished, you can access the preview and search for Flipnotes by creator. The project currently has over 12 terabytes of Flipnotes saved. It's currently scheduled for release on May 31st, 2022, though this date is tentative. So if you're looking for a long-lost Flipnote buried somewhere in your memory, or you just want a fun nostalgia trip, you can check out some of these archives to see some awesome Flipnotes. YouTubers. So there are a couple of YouTubers who actually got their start on Flipnote, including some really big ones. Kiki Flipnote is currently the biggest one that I'm aware of, currently sitting around a little bit over 1 million subscribers. Also, many YouTubers have mentioned or credited Flipnote Studio's inspiration for their content at one time or another, such as Something Else YT, who tweeted about how this iconic Flipnote inspired a lot of his work way back in 2009. I don't think people quite remember or consider how much an effect that this app had on the world of content creation, because if you do some digging, you can clearly see that this app has just inspired so much creativity. Flipnote Studio Switch. Flipnote Studio is an app that would be absolutely amazing to see on the Switch. Conceptually, it feels very feasible with the console. Maybe it would require a stylus sold separately, but I think with the amount of Nintendo Switches out there right now, a new version of Flipnote Studio would just be a hit success. That said, if the app were to come, there are definitely some improvements from the 3DS version that need to be implemented. The most important thing, in my opinion, being that it's free. There was a really convincing leak that happened in 2020, which I'll actually be talking about later. But other than that, there's been radio silence from Nintendo about this app coming to fruition. Honestly, I don't think this app will ever end up on the Switch, but hey, maybe it will, because the last time I said an app wouldn't come to the Switch, Switch Sports and Switch Sports Resort are something people have wanted to arrive in some form to the Nintendo Switch for as long as the console has been getting retro games. Unfortunately though, this isn't likely to come anytime soon. This happened just a month later. So yeah, check out my Wii Sports video if you're interested, and hey, I'm convinced that if I make this video, Nintendo might end up announcing a Flipnote Studio Switch, so who knows, maybe it'll happen. Channels. So you might think that Flipnote Studio channels were individual creators, but they were actually categories of sorts that you would identify your Flipnote as. These included basic descriptions like musical and comedy, though community members suggested more like spoof and stick figures that Hatena would implement. They got more and more niche as time went on, and the last channel created was the Birds channel, which mainly consisted of videos in a series called Birdie Bye. Stars. Stars were Flipnote Hatena's version of a like button or an upvote, though they worked a little bit differently. There were a couple different types of stars, those being yellow stars, green stars, red stars, blue stars, and purple stars. Yellow stars were basically the like button for Flipnotes. They were the most common, and they could be given infinitely by just spamming or holding the Add Stars button on a Flipnote. The ability to earn infinite stars created a phenomenon called star begging, where, just as the name suggests, people would repost a Flipnote or make a terrible one and just beg for stars, which was really annoying and seemed to fill Flipnote Hatena with spam for a time. The others could be bought in packs or earned in different ways. Green stars, for example, could be bought or received from doing certain actions on Flipnote Hatena, like reporting inappropriate Flipnotes. Red stars were earned if you had a Flipnote reach the weekly news. Blue and purple stars could only be received in star mystery packs, though they weren't even guaranteed, and they're pretty rare. It's a weird system for sure, but was nonetheless an integral part of the service. The star system is also used on Sudomimo, though the ways to earn stars have been slightly tweaked. Sudomimo Rewind. This entry is about Pseudomimo Rewind, which is a brand new sort of homage to the year's greatest flipnotes. It's only happened once for 2021, and I think it could possibly become a new trend. Check out the video here if you're interested. I've put it on the iceberg because I really think this could be a big part of the flipnote community going forward, and I just think it's a little bit interesting. E3 2009. E3 2009 was where Flipnote Studio was officially announced for North America and Europe. You can still watch the announcement online.
Flipnote Studio here in America will be available to Nintendo DSi owners this summer.
Flipnote Gallery World. Flipnote Gallery World was the 3DS version of Flipnote Hatena mentioned earlier. Being that it was mostly a paid service really just kicked this app in the shin, and in my opinion, set it up for failure from the start. I personally never even used it for that reason. I'll connect it to another entry that's a little bit deeper in this iceberg. Series. There were plenty of awesome series on Flipnote Hatena back in the day, many of which stayed within the service, but others moved on to Flipnote Gallery World, Pseudomimo, or even YouTube in some form. Birdie Bye and Stupid Mario Bros. Are good examples of these series, but there's a more full list on the screen. To my knowledge, all of these large popular series have been backed up onto the archive project, so you can binge them if you so please. Sprite packs. Sprite packs were flipnotes that consisted of images with sprites of characters intended to be reused by the community for their own animations. These were usually Mario related or Sonic, maybe something similar to that. The community welcomed these sprite packs as they definitely helped less experienced creators when they were first starting, but they even helped out seasoned creators who just wanted to apply consistency in their work. These weren't uncommon to run into while browsing Flipnote Hatena, and they remain a fun part of the app's history, showing off some unique community collaboration. Ouija. This uncanny picture of Luigi comes from the DOS game Mario is Missing, where Luigi is shown with this creepy face and stiff pose. The meme itself was sparked when a user named Monkey in Closet made a comment about him on the LUE Links forums, now called the end of the internet, way back in 2007. Pictures and memes of Ouija began to spread that year on 4chan, and eventually they made their way to Flipnote, where he became an iconic character there. MP3 videos. These were flipnotes where users would upload audio of a song with just a still image of an MP3 player, or in some cases maybe an iPod. It was honestly a pretty lazy way to get stars, but these were pretty popular on the website. Unlike YouTube, which would hunt down a video like that, Flipnote Hatena allowed these rips of music to thrive on their platform, and they were pretty common. These were different from original Flipnote songs, or songs that already existed but became much more iconic after being paired with some good original animation. These were just still pictures. Justin Bieber hate. So, for whatever reason, people on Flipnote Hatena absolutely hated Justin Bieber. I guess Justin Bieber hate was pretty common in the late 2000s and early 2010s, but for some reason, Flipnote Studio became a haven for this sort of content. It's pretty tame as far as online content goes, but it's weird that it just happens so frequently. Contests. In 2010 and 2011, there were official Nintendo-sponsored contests to celebrate the Mario and Zelda 25th anniversaries. These entries were judged by Nintendo developers including Shigeru Miyamoto, and the winning flipnotes were put on the Nintendo website and YouTube. Nintendo was very involved with these contests, and in fact, the iconic How to Draw Mario flipnote was released by Nintendo in anticipation of the Mario contest. Shoop da Whoop. Shoop da Whoop was this meme,
I'm a fire in my leg,
which was audio and a drawing from Dragon Ball Z. It was a viral meme almost instantly after this post was made on DeviantArt, and it infiltrated the Flipnote community as well. I might be wrong, but I remember this being one of the most commonly used memes on Flipnote. And honestly, until I did this research, I had no idea what was actually being said in this audio because of the terrible sound quality on the DSi. Stick fights. Stick fights were an insanely popular thing to make and watch on Flipnote Hatena, and there were just tons of these videos, literally enough to make a stick figure channel on the website. These were pretty fun, and they were definitely an accessible type of video for new creators to make. Elmo Knows Where You Live. Elmo Knows Where You Live is an uncanny meme that appeared on Flipnote Studio a bunch of times, being one of the more creepy Flipnotes that you could actually see on the website. There were a decent number of iterations of this meme, and they're all pretty funny to watch. Reanimating audio. So this is a sort of general type of Flipnote, but people would very often take audio, be it from commercials, comedy routines, or TV shows even, and they'd make their own animations to go over them. A great example of this is the Cup of Dirt Flipnote, which was spun off of countless times, but the original audio comes from a comedy routine by Brian Regan, which I think came out in 1997, I'm not entirely sure though. It was a good strategy to make a semi-original Flipnote, and this was an integral part of Hatena. So many of the most popular Flipnotes came from this category.
What do you have there, Brian? It's a cup of dirt.
Flipnote Frog leaps into battle. This entry is about how awesome it would be to have the Flipnote Frog in Smash Bros. He's an original Nintendo character who could easily have some unique moves made up, and interestingly, he's basically already been conceptualized by Paper Kitty, who made a mod for the game Rivals of Aether, which is basically a Smash type game, bringing in the Flipnote Frog. And this is so awesome. It's literally the coolest thing I've seen all day, probably the coolest thing you've seen all day too. He's just done so perfectly. He brings in moves from Flipnotes like the Kickman. It's super unique, and honestly, the Flipnote Frog just needs to be in Smash. The concept is there, he has multiple colors, it literally works out perfectly. In the meantime, however, you can play as the frog in Super Smash Bros. Crusade, as Paper Kitty's mod was ported over to that game, which is a PC version of Smash. Splatnet. Interestingly, Hatena has remained a longtime partner of Nintendo. Though they haven't done anything as big as Flipnote Hatena, the company worked on Splatnet 2, an app for communicating while playing Splatoon 2. This isn't the only example though. Hatena also worked on Miiverse and Smash World, showing that Nintendo still trusts them to make social content platforms. Hey, maybe they can help again when Flipnote Studio Switch comes out, am I right? Flipnote Warrior. Flipnote Warrior is the longest Flipnote ever made, a full anime coming in at 34 minutes. Created in Flipnote Studio 3D, you can now find it in Japanese on YouTube or with an English dub. Just out of respect for how awesome this is, I highly recommend you check it out on Mirror Panel 3, the creator's YouTube channel. The amount of dedication it must have taken to create this is just super cool. Definitely check it out. Kairu Gallery. Kairu Gallery is the pseudo-MIMO of Flipnote Studio 3D. It's a server that you can access online or through your 3DS. It's a fun website to spend some time on if you want to see 3DS Flipnotes, and it also has a pretty large archives of Flipnotes from the DSi. Moving Memo. Moving Memo was the name it released for the app in Japan. Depending on the source, I also see the Japanese translation of moving notepad used. I'm not sure if this is a mistake or if these words just have the same translation in English or whatnot, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Friend Gallery. Flipnote Gallery Friends was a spot pass service paired with Flipnote Studio 3D. You might not remember this program because it was only released in Japan for a very short time. It was taken down in November 2013, just a few months after the app was released, due to concerns over child predators using the app to share inappropriate images with children. This is an understandable move since, obviously, the safety of children comes before anything else in this situation, though it does go to show the need for Nintendo to contract out this sort of work to companies like Hatena who can better manage these issues on social content platforms. Secret development. Flipnote Studio actually started as a secret project between Yoshiaki Koizumi and Hideaki Shimizu. These two developed the app alone and in a few days had a prototype made. It was originally designed for the DS, with the idea being you could take notes on the DS and upload them to the Wii. The pair actually had no idea at the time that the DSi was being developed. though once it was announced, they shared their idea with Nintendo. With the online capabilities of the DSi, so many more possibilities opened, and from there, development led to the app eventually being released as Flipnote Studio, very differently from its original concept. Playdate Handheld. The Playdate Handheld is this small little system created by Panic, the company behind Firewatch and Untitled Goose Game. The device is very unique, especially for its crank control. Though it's yet to be released, it has been confirmed that a version of Flipnote Studio will come out for the device. The footage that's been released of it looks awesome, and this idea in combination with the unique console is very creative. It's being developed by a man named James Daniel. What do you guys think about this? Will any of you be picking up this handheld when it releases? April Fool's 2020. So, back in March of 2020, this leak that I mentioned earlier surfaced online. It's extremely convincing, and the person behind it did a really good job. Though Nintendo fans did not take this prank so kindly. Most of the hate came from the fact that the prank sort of started in March, making it not really an April Fool's joke, and the creator was harassed so much that they deleted the announcement of it being fake and set their account to private for a time. Some of the not-so-sweet replies to this guy included, "I hate you," and "You will rest in peace." Certainly some constructive criticism if you ask me, but the story isn't over. If you hate this guy, get ready because there is a redemption arc. The man who created the fakes is none other than James, the same guy who's making the Playdate handheld app. So in some strange twist of fate, James is making it up to the Flipnote community. Honestly, I feel really bad because even if you think the joke was made in bad taste, it's not an excuse to harass the guy, but he seems to be doing much better now. All in all, this is a pretty funny Flipnote story. Pikmin Short Movies Storyboards. The Pikmin Short Movies are a set of 3 animated shorts released in 2014. The movies, titled The Night Juicer, Treasure in a Bottle, and Occupational Hazards, are all based on the first 2 Pikmin games. Interestingly, Shigeru Miyamoto used Flipnote Studio to storyboard the films. Both the films and the original storyboards with commentary are available online. Lost Media. Like any amazing game or film-related creation, there's bound to be scores of lost media related to Flipnote Studio. Naturally, there are plenty of lost Flipnotes, belonging to people who made but never shared Flipnotes from their original DSIs. For one reason or another, some of these will sadly never be found. Also, despite the incredible work from the community, the archive projects can only do so much, and there are plenty of Flipnotes that made it to Hatena that are likely lost as well. There are also plenty of posts online from people talking about missing Flipnotes that they can no longer find, and we can only hope that the archival projects help as many people as possible find those old animations and hopefully relive some happy memories. Flipnote Studio 3D Censorship. This entry is quite possibly the craziest on this iceberg. This entry refers to Nintendo intentionally removing any mentions of Flipnote Studio in an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto once the interview was translated from Japanese to English. So Miyamoto mentions and even encourages downloading Moving Notepad, but these mentions were removed in the English translation. This was back when Flipnote Studio 3D was only available in Japan, so it seems as if Nintendo didn't want to advertise this app to their Western audience, probably because they still hadn't fleshed out the plans to bring it to North America and Europe. But even so, it's very strange that they would just remove the words, like people couldn't Google Translate the interviews. Now this interview took place on the Miiverse, so you can no longer see the original page, but many people have commented on what it used to look like, and there are some pictures of the interview out there. This is absolutely crazy to me, and hopefully Nintendo never does something this dishonest again. Hatena says goodbye. This is the final entry on this iceberg. Though Hatena has helped Nintendo out over the past few years, for the most part they've stepped down from their grand role after the shutdown of Flipnote Hatena. Though the company is alive and well today, we may never see another partnership between them and Nintendo as big as the Flipnote days. Though Flipnote Hatena is gone, you can still go to the website and be met with this page. A fairly simple screen with a basic grass backdrop surrounding some text and a nice GIF of the Flipnote frog, with a link in the corner to the main Hatenna website. I've got to be honest, a really sad part of researching for this video was when I was scanning old forums looking for trivia about Flipnote, and I'd find scores of links to Hatenna, all of which just led me back here. This website is Hatenna's goodbye to the Flipnote community. Flipnote Hatenna has ended its service. The Flipnote Hatenna website and Flipnote Hatenna for the Nintendo DSi ended on May 31st, 2013. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to the members of the Flipnote Hatenna community, which began in December 2008. The service has now ended, but the memories will always remain. Thank you for all the amazing Flipnotes and for your use of the Flipnote Hatenna website and Flipnote Hatenna for the Nintendo DSi. I really hope that this video brought back some happy memories for you, and I also hope that you got to learn a little bit along the way. Comment below how you felt about these entries, and also share your favorite memory from the days of Flipnote. I don't respond to all my comments, but I can promise you that I definitely read every single one. Thank you so much for watching this video, and have a good night.